My name is Ethan Parker, and at 32 years old I found myself navigating a world that had transformed dramatically overnight. Cedar Grove had always been a small town where everyone knew each other, and I had spent nearly a decade working at a marketing firm called Bright Ideas. It had been a place I loved, where teamwork and creativity flourished under the kind guidance of my previous boss, who had a reputation for nurturing talent. It was a space where I felt valued, respected, and empowered to thrive. That was until the new director arrived and everything changed. Her name was Miranda, and she pranced into the office like she owned the place, which in her mind she did. Tall with an air of arrogance that was instantly off-putting, she quickly made it clear that she believed she was smarter than anyone else. The problem was she did not just claim superiority, she acted upon it relentlessly. With a swift wave of her hand, she complicated simple tasks, insisting on injecting herself into every decision and making work tedious and frustrating. She micromanaged to a fault, drowning my usual flow of creativity in a sea of endless pointless requests. Information that I had previously needed was suddenly withheld. Important emails that once included me mysteriously would arrive only to my colleagues, devoid of my name. The worst part came when she condemned me to a lack of overtime. While my coworkers earned promotions and bonuses, I found myself ineligible for every little extra benefit, simply because Miranda had decided that I was not worthy. I started to feel trapped in a nightmare, a sense of dread hovering over me each time she entered my office with that condescending smile on her face. It felt like I was in a test I never signed up for, and I had no idea how to pass. I began to lose not only my motivation, but my will to even step foot inside that building. My sense of being a valuable member of the team was withering away, and with it my patience. The tipping point came when I overheard her making cruel remarks about my work ethic in the break room. In that moment, I realized I had to do something drastic. I needed revenge. Then, during one ordinary day, I discovered a fascinating little secret. It turned out Miranda had developed a crush on Jake, our delivery guy. She made it blatantly obvious, constantly commenting on how handsome he was and how she could not help but smile every time he walked in with a package. But little did she know Jake and I had been flirting for months. It was harmless fun at first, a playful exchange, but when I saw her fascination with him, it sparked something within me. Jake seemed to pick up on Miranda's interest, and he was more than willing to play along, giving me sly grins and winks when she was around, like we shared a private joke. This turned into more than just a single act of rebellion. It became the beginning of my carefully crafted plan. With my own set of keys to the office, I decided to leverage the situation to my advantage. One evening, emboldened and ready for mischief, I reached out to Jake and invited him for a special after-hours visit. We met in the conference room, the very place where Miranda had held all her meetings. It was there that we had a little fun, our laughter echoing off the walls, punctuated by the thrill of mischief and a tinge of cheeky revenge. We started meeting regularly, creating our own little world that existed entirely in that room after hours. The conference table became our private sanctuary, and I will admit, it was exhilarating. We shared stolen moments away from the prying eyes of ordinary office life, and the excitement of it all made my heart race. I could hardly contain my glee when I thought about Miranda. I imagined her hot, flushed face as she sat down at that table, completely unaware of what had transpired the night before, where my bare skin had pressed against the same surface where she now shoved her mouth with snacks during meetings. Days passed, and every time I watched her take her seat and mime her usual pompous demeanor, a smile would creep onto my face. It became a game of sorts, a dance of revenge that added a little thrill to every mundane day. I could see the frustration in her eyes each time she realized Jake was not returning her flirtations. There was a satisfaction in knowing that while she believed she was in control, she was unknowingly trapped in the web I had spun. However, soon my enjoyment took a turn that I had not anticipated. One day I received an unexpected email from Human Resources. It stood as a stark reminder that the consequences of my petty revenge could potentially twist back upon me. There were whispers of inappropriate behavior within the company, and my name had been mentioned. The last thing I wanted was for my antics to cost me my job. Suddenly, I realized I may have gone too far. The thrill I had derived from my plan turned into a knot of anxiety in my stomach. My heart raced every time I walked past Miranda's office, waiting for her to expose my secret or ask about my after-hours rendezvous. With my pulse pounding heavily in my ears, I knew I had to act quickly. My final attempt needed to be harsh yet discreet, my one shot at turning the tide in my favor. I decided to confront Miranda directly, armed with what I knew about her obsessive crush. I needed to break her illusion of superiority, to bring her back to earth and expose her failings. One early morning, before anyone else arrived, I walked into her office, fueled by a wave of adrenaline. As I stood before her, I watched as she shuffled papers on her desk, completely unaware. In that moment, I laid it all on the table. I revealed everything I knew about her inappropriate feelings for Jake, how I had been using it against her, and how the power she thought she held had been nothing more than a facade. The look of disbelief on her face faded as anger poured into her features. She tried to regain dominance, but I had taken the wheel. I had exposed her weakness, and in turn, I had reclaimed my strength. The confrontation shook the very foundations of her arrogance. When she finally sputtered out an attempt at a retort, all I could do was smile, a wave of relief washing over me. I had turned the tables, and I could see it in her eyes that she had lost some of her power. Days later, she was called into a meeting with HR. It was not long before everyone learned she had been let go. The sense of justice I felt was overwhelming. The classroom bully had been expelled from the playground, and I finally felt free. As the dust settled in the office, a new normal began to surface. The weight that had pressed down on my chest for so long lifted, and I felt invigorated once more. I began collaborating with my coworkers again, contributing ideas and fostering innovation. The vibrant spirit of Cedar Grove returned to my work life. Jake and I continued our flirty escapades, but now my worries were replaced with laughter and the excitement of endless possibilities. Miranda had been my nemesis once, but now she was just a memory, a dark cloud I had managed to clear from my sky. As I sat in the conference room, the echoes of laughter lingering, I could not help but feel a delicious sense of irony wash over me. I had taken what could have been a bitter end and turned it into a victorious new beginning. In hindsight, I realized that sometimes, life's challenges create unexpected opportunities for redemption.